speech. The name is Pepsival. Thursday in Black is always a culture, and I join the rest of others in the ecumenical movement that we are saying no to rape and violence against girls and women. You have a mother, I have a mother. You have a sister, I have one. You have a wife, I'll get one someday. You have a baby girl, I have a baby girl. There's a need for us to advocate on behalf of this group of unique human beings and continue for us to say no, 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 no to rape and violence. So today's Thursday, but we're not here to talk about my gender advocacy movement. We're here to talk about labor. We are here to talk about what goes in and out as far as the National Labour Commission's work and the Labour Act is concerned. We've transitioned a lot of conversations in the past 2 to 3 weeks. And today, we are going to look at unfair and fair terminations. In this conversation, you should be able to understand what dismissal is, what is not dismissal, what constitutes to a fair termination of your contract, and what constitutes an unfair. Do we have types of termination? What then can we say that at what point is final? There's no going back as far as termination is concerned. What will you do as an employer? As an employee, that will be the right for termination to take place. These can only be found in what is codified in the laws so far as labor is concerned. That's going to be the focus of the conversation. In the case probably maybe you've also been, your contract has been terminated or you've been dismissed and you don't know whether what happened is legit or not legit. This is where you need to be. This is where Ghana speaks and Ghana certainly listens. Whilst the minority in parliament, that's the MPs, are in front of IECO sitting on the floor, we are talking about labor. Maybe what they are doing can constitute to a termination of the MPship or a dismissal of them. Maybe we'll put it in the course of the conversation. But as politics is in my genes, dear, I cannot say I won't talk about it. We are going to go on a quick turn. When we come back, I introduce my guest for tonight. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Do you want the latest news on sport on the local scene, such as the Ghana Premier League, CAF Champions League, and Confederation matches? Want the latest in the world of boxing, athletics, cycling, para sports, tennis, and any of our national teams? Then tune in to Sports Center on Adwa TV this and every Wednesday and Friday at 6:45 p.m. to 7:45 p.m. Sports Center will also host resource person from sporting federations, sports athlete or personalities and stakeholders in the sporting fraternity to give clarifications, inform and educate viewers. Join Isaac Morty and Derek Nee Asai Ankara for your latest on trending sports issues and game predictions on Sports Center.
Welcome back from the 10 days to watching PM Ghana here on Adwa Television. My guest is no stranger to you. He's in the person of Eram Duche Kwame Tottenham Jr., who is the head of public relations for the National Labour Commission Ghana. Good evening, Eram. How are you doing?
Good evening, Pepsival. I'm well.
Good one there, good one there. But you've been doing back and forth. I've been seeing you. Yeah. How's the work going?
Well as well.
It's always a delight seeing you.
That is it. I also feel very happy when I'm here.
How's
I'm always at home.
Good. How's the Secretary General doing? Or General Secretary? Executive Secretary? Yeah.
The Executive Secretary is doing well.
She's new. We are yet to meet her officially. Yeah.
Yes, this appointment has been the third time she's been able to act. Yes, in the same capacity.
Okay.
And we are being hopeful that this time around
Should be confirmed.
should be confirmed.
Oh my God.
That is Dr. Bernice Welbeck.
Yeah, yes. The name all the time strikes a bell.
So greetings to her this evening.
Sure. So, good evening. We join your good evening
she's
stream.
an advent viewer
Of the show.
of the show.
Oh, so let me send my request. So we have to come and see you one-on-one and have a conversation, and
That's
then
it.
properly we usher you onto our screens officially, and then we congratulate.
Well, she's
you
never
as
been
well.
here.
She's been here, yes,
She's
yes,
never
but
been here on the morning show.
Yes, I didn't do that.
Yes, some
interview,
few years ago.
I didn't do that interview, but now that she's back,
Yes.
we have to properly introduce her to our viewers.
That's
But
true.
good evening, madam, and then I trust you're going to have a feel of tonight's conversation. But viewers, we are going to, like I indicated, we are looking at fair and unfair terminations tonight, and 30 minutes taking us to that conversation. But bro, let's look at the conversations on dismissal and then termination. Sometimes people want to marry them. My contract gets terminated, and then when I get home, then they ask what happened. I say, "Oh, I've been dismissed." So let us understand: are they one? It's just semantics. Is it dismissal being termination, or per the documents, per the law, per the experiences? They are two distinct brothers: dismissal and termination. If they are, let us know what it is, how it stands on its own.
Thank you very much, Pepsival, and greetings to all your viewers. Yes, I would say termination stands differently from dismissal. There may be some semblance, because at the end of the day, it's all a break in a working relationship. But dismissal is pronounced on an individual when he or she carries out a gross misconduct at the workplace. That is when the fellow's employment is called off, and in other words, known as dismissal.
So gross insubordination, misbehavior, or something.
Exactly.
Conduct.
Exactly. At the workplace.
workplace.
It could be due to a fight, a sexual harassment.
Negligence of duty
Well,
at the extreme.
exactly. Or stealing. Stealing. All these amount to dismissal.
Okay.
So at any point in time, a worker commits in such a manner, at best, the employer can dismiss the fellow.
I think in our conditions of service here in Padua, drinking at the working place is extremely prohibited.
Yes,
Alcohol
exactly.
is prohibited.
Exactly. In many organizations, even the breweries, many of them do not agree to workers drinking at the workplace. They frown on that. So it's in their collective agreement with the worker that you cannot drink whilst you are on duty. Meanwhile, they are
They're the one
brewing,
producing. They're the
they
one
are
producing
brewing
the beer.
their drinks.
That's why Friday night
But you can't
Accra
drink
Brew is
whilst you're on
interesting.
duty. So all these amount to dismissal when it happens. Yes, and on the issue of termination, one can be terminated when the employment relationship needs to be severed. And so at a point where the employer feels that the work cannot continue due to one reason or the other, not of the gross misconduct per se, but due to one reason or the other, maybe the business is not moving as it's supposed to be, the returns are not sufficient to keep the work. The employer can simply terminate. And I think that there are conditions that it goes with when it gets to this level.
Okay, sure. So does it mean that purely on the basis of profit, return, return on investment, we can talk about service input and output and other things? Does it all also would say that if any at this point, if we have low levels of this, the employer can say that he's doing termination?
Yes. See, the organization or the business needs to run. And if the employer feels that the conditions within which the work is going is nothing to write home about, probably the investment that he has even made, he's not recouping the resources. He puts money into it, but it doesn't yield any returns. And there are growing concerns of a possible shutdown of the organization. He can have a mutual separation, which in other words is also referred to as termination, with the employer.
Okay, so in a nutshell, can we say that there may be the instances that will lead to termination are not hovering around the employee, but sometimes it has to do with external factors, extreme factors that are beyond the control of both the employer and then the employee. Can we say that?
It depends. It can be from both angles.
Okay.
There are instances too that the employee's conduct could lead to a termination. Yes. For instance, if the employee is found on medical grounds to be unfit to work, you need not keep the person in the organization. At best, you have a mutual separation. And anything that is due him is paid to him so that you separate relationship on the field of work. If the employee is found not to be giving off his best or working according to how he's supposed to perform, his performance appraisal is not showing his input, he can also be terminated. See, so these are some of the grounds that one can decide to terminate the work of the worker on.
Beyond the specifics you've been mentioned of, in the course of your experiences and then the engagements as far as the NLC is concerned with employers, employees, and then the government, among other things, do we have other causes that arises beyond the ordinary that may lead to termination?
Yes. See, there are a lot of factors that can cause the employer to terminate the employee's work or contract. If the employee undertakes any form of behavior like a sexual harassment at the workplace of his colleagues or fellow workers, that fellow can be terminated. He can be terminated. And like we mentioned earlier also, drunkenness on the field of work, gross insubordination, all these can lead to termination.
So at any point in time that termination must take place, there have to be a specified grounds.
There must be a reason.
For
And you see, in many organizations, their conditions of service spells out these conditions within which a worker can be terminated on the field of work. So if you are a worker, that is why it is very necessary that when you employ somebody to work in your enterprise, you give the fellow an appointment letter. Many a times it spells out some of these conditions within which the employee is supposed to operate, or the condition of service, so that the employee will be abreast or can apprise himself with the do's and don'ts of the organization, so he doesn't fall foul to it. You see, when these materials are not provided, the employee is considered to have a field day in so many things he does. And it becomes difficult to even punish when he goes contrary to the regulations that are there that you have set for yourself or the organization. So it is always important that some of these conditions are made known to the worker. You know, under Section 9 of the Labor Act, which talks about the duties of the employer, it's his duty to make every relevant information that the employee needs known to him. It is very, very important, because if you are not aware, if you are not informed, it becomes difficult to know what to do. Yes, every organization has its own conditions of operations. There are places that you will go that there are some offices that you cannot enter. For instance, you go to Bank of Ghana, there is a strong room that nobody can enter there.
Exactly.
maybe except the governor or some one or two director of finance or one or two other people who can enter into that office. No ordinary staff can have access to it because it holds the government's treasury or the people of Ghana's treasury. So you have to make the relevant information known to the worker. And it's a condition. Yes.
Now, when we've been able to establish what dismissal is, termination is, and I like the fact that viewers, if you have been following the conversation the whole of this month, we've been able to establish what a contract is so far as employment, so a contract of employment. That's about your employment engagement, terms and reference among other things, and what goes into it. And I've been able to talk about conditions of employment or conditions of service, which certainly has been mentioned of. These documents have salient points on what grounds can lead to your termination, what grounds can lead to your dismissal, among other things. Now, Tadime,
Yes.
when it happens, whatever the grounds will be, and then the employer says that I don't need your services anymore, can you just call? I remember when the last establishment I was working with before this establishment, before Adwa TV, but I was there with them I was a contract staff for them for 1 year. And then my contract was due. So one day I got invited by HR. In my mind, they're going to tell me that they're going to renew the contract. But HR comes to tell me that, oh, they don't have money now to be paying, blah, 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 blah. So they cannot renew the contract. So once the month is ended, I'll be taking my salary and then they're going to give me some parting package for
That's your severance award.
Severance, yes. Thank you for whatever be the case, but they cannot be able to do that. In terms of termination, is it expected that the employer would engage the employee that these are the grounds, these are the factors, we won't be able to continue with our engagement again, and I'm terminating my contract with you?
Yes, and before I even come to explain that, I want to also add up that the employee's contract or employment can also be terminated when there is a gross misconduct or his inability to perform his role that he's supposed to. Now, you have employed somebody and you have assigned him a task at the workplace. It is that responsibility that you have assigned to him that he or she takes his remuneration on. So if you feel that the worker is not performing his duty, for instance, you've employed a cleaner to be tidying up the studios every day, and you come to work and that is not done, there's no need to keep the employee. So these are some of the grounds within which the worker's employment condition can be terminated. Yes, and you also asked about
in conversation, dialogue, a notice.
Yes, giving a notice before the termination. Exactly, that will have to be done. You see, the fellow is your employee. He's working for you. If you feel that due to one reason or the other, you can't continue, you have to give a notice. And what the law says is that if you have worked for more than 3 years with the person, at least give him or her a 1 month notice before the termination. Or you pay 1 month in lieu of the notice. So therefore, if I feel that for what has happened,
3 years or 10
exactly
months.
3 years and beyond, you need to be given a 1 month notice. You see, and the beauty of this provision in the Labor Act is that during the 1 month period, whatever asset or company's belonging which is in the possession of the worker, he will ensure that he brings up to you,
ID cards,
or he even prepares a handing over, so that it becomes easier for anyone who will be coming after him to take over for where he's living. And the law again says that if you feel due to one reason or the other, you can't even keep him till the 1 month is over, then pay him 1 month's salary. Then he walks away. Again, if the fellow has worked for less than 3 years, then give him 2 weeks notice, or you pay 2 weeks salary in lieu of notice. So you offset the fellow and the working relationship ends there. When you are able to do this, you are able to go. And again, if the work is such that there is a remuneration at the end of every working day, then what the law also provides is that at the end of the working day, you can end the relationship. In instances that the worker is paid on weekly basis, what the law says is give the person a 7 days notice before you end the working relationship.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. So that means that I as the employer cannot just hide in my corner and then I'll wait. Once the last working period or salary is paid, for even if I pay monthly or even weekly or maybe daily, then I pay that package. Then I just instruct security, don't allow so and so to enter the premises. When the person is trying to you're not terminated, go. That means I cannot do that.
No.
Okay.
You have to give a notice.
Interesting.
Yes, you have to give a notice.
Now, do we have specific types of termination? Does it come in any form or every termination is termination?
Yes, we have a fair termination and we have unfair termination.
Okay.
So unfair termination, that is when the employer and employee sits down together, a notice is given, it comes with a mutual separation. That one is considered as a fair termination.
Okay.
So if the employer gives notice to the worker that due to this and that reason we can't continue, or the employee also do say, many a times people think that it's only the employer who can terminate. You, the worker, can equally terminate your own employment.
Didn't tell me that.
Yes, you can equally terminate
actually
your own employment. If you feel that you can't continue again,
Okay.
you can. The law says that notify your employer that you can't continue the working
But
relationship.
they tell you to just go and resign.
Well, that is also a mutual separation. After you have informed the employer and then he has agreed to it, then you can tender in your resignation.
Most definitely in your conditions to come with the number of weeks you have to notify.
That is it.
Some would say a month, some take 2 weeks, some 2 3 days.
And even in this instance, on the termination, it is applicable to both the employer and the employee alike. You see, they need to give the other party, any of the other party, a notice before the termination comes. If you are able to do that, then it's a fair termination.
Okay.
See, if the employer feels that there is an ill health on the part of the worker, the law provides that you can terminate the condition or the employment relationship that is existing. If the employee is found to be undertaking or to be doing something which is of gross misconduct, that one too you can terminate. If he is engaged in sexual harassment, that one too you can terminate. And so when these are done, the termination is considered to be a fair one.
Fair one.
Yes, it's considered to be a fair termination. Yes. Like I've already mentioned, a proven misconduct, or even you assess the work of the performance of the worker and you are not satisfied. But with that, you will have to give the reasons or the benchmarks within which you examine the worker and you realize that his performance was not good.
Then I want to have to be some strong KPIs.
Exactly. Key performance indicators.
Yeah.
You have to appraise the worker. You have to appraise the worker and put it on record. Even with that, let him know his performance. You see, appraisal is done between the employer and the worker.
Yeah.
In instances that is a governmental work, maybe the employer's agent or the chief executive or the manager or whoever is handling the organization is supposed to sit down with the worker or the supervisor, appraise the worker, let him know his performance. That can form a basis upon which you can terminate. Now, when we come to the issue of unfair termination, unfair termination, you get up one day and you say that I can't work with you again for no apparent reason. It's not a misconduct. There hasn't been any assessment that has proven that the worker is not performing. He hasn't done anything that is contrary to the provisions that are there in the conditions of work. And and you get up and you say you are terminating, that one can be considered as unfair termination because there must be a grounds for which the worker and the employer are severing relationship.
You know that this expatriate companies that work here, and then their relationship to our indigenous folks. But sometimes I've heard of harsh conditions among other things, and then this sort of terminations that is not being notified. They just get there and they be like, "Hello, I don't do anything. Go, move from here, leave here, leave here." When it should happen in that form, do you have any remedies for such unfair termination?
Yes, there are remedies. The Labor Commission is always there. Our doors are open. If you feel that the termination is unfair, one, you can come to lodge a case with the commission. So you come, we give you a complaint form. You go and fill it. You provide relevant documents that you need to add up. You type a petition addressed to the Executive Secretary of the National Labor Commission. And this is the wide practice. And so in any of our corners that we operate, be it in the Ashanti region, Western, Bono, Ahafo, Bono region, Greater Accra, wherever our operations are, you go to any of our offices, then you fill a form, you attach your employment or termination letter, then you type a complaint stating what has actually happened. Then you bring it to us. When it comes, it goes through a cycle. We check to see whether in the first place it's even a labor issue. When it is established that it is a labor concern, then the next processes are triggered. It goes to the administration after it has been vetted, and then it gets to the registry. They put a letter to it. It goes to dispatch. They also go to dispatch the letter. You see, one good thing about the commission is that our services are even free. The services are free. And so when you come to report of such issues happening, we go through it at every point or corner in the country that we need to go and serve. We will go and serve a letter. Yes, our dispatchers will go and serve a letter to your employer so that we will ask for a response within 2 weeks or 14 working days. If the response comes, then we set a date to even hear the case. If it so happens that we don't get a response within the 14-day period, the law provides that we go at 7 days. So all these are conditions or steps that are there, you see. And when the case is heard and it is established that there wasn't anything that warranted the termination, the commission can direct that the employer reinstate you from the day that the termination took place. So if you have been in the house for the past 2 years due to termination and you have now come, if we go into it and it is established that there was no veracity for the termination, you are going to be made to reinstate the worker, and you even exactly from the day you terminated and pay his salary to him.
Interesting.
Yes, if it's so necessary, we'll make you to pay his salary to him. Yes, and there are instances that we can even ask for a compensation also to be added for the worker, depending on how the case is. You see, so all these are steps that are there. Or if we go into it also and we realize that, well, the condition was a fair one, but then there are outstanding payments that you need to give to the worker. Something, payments that it is necessary. The worker has worked and has earned it. And you need to pay to him and you have defaulted. You will be made to pay.
Like leave.
Like leaves, if you have as outstanding leaves, or there are certain times that the employer will even say that due to one reason or the other, don't go on your leave, be working, so that we will convert it into cash for you. But in the course of event, that remuneration or monies that needed to be paid back never came. All these are going to be calculated so that you pay it to the worker.
Okay. Going to the formality for the complaints, yourself and Miss Julia had made me understood that anytime you get to the commission to pick up the form, even on the face of the form itself, to make the complaint, you are being asked if internal structures has been exhausted. In the case of termination, in my mind, and when I look at what is happening, sometimes you are not even allowed after termination to even have access to the premises. So you don't even have the opportunity to go and trigger an internal process. Would the commission say that, okay, this is a unique condition where, due to maybe the fact and the petition that I've attached to the complaints, there's not been room for internal structures. You are going to proceed to hear the case. I'm going to proceed to write to the respondent. Then you start the redressing processes, or I'll be compelled to go back to my employer to go and start an internal process before I come back to you.
Yeah, we wouldn't direct that you go back to the employer. We assume that by the time you come to the commission, you have exhausted all the avenues that are there for redress at the workplace. It could happen that you tried to meet with your management or whoever has terminated your employment, but you couldn't have the opportunity to meet with him to discuss on some of these matters. And as a result, you are coming to the commission. But then we want to actually know and understand the conditions that are there at the workplace, which you could have used to address the issue or the impasse. So that is how come the paragraph of the complaint form requires that you tell us what you have done to address the concern at the workplace. So we can also have a fair idea of how the processes at the workplace has been. So that at the given time that we come to the table, we can also know how to approach the matter like. There are instances that some workers get terminated. And in fact, it's very difficult for them to even have access to their employer.
Exactly.
To have any discussion. The security will not even allow you to get into the premises of the organization. So it's difficult. So we want to understand all these conditions, you see. And indirectly, it is also an assessment tool for how terminations and seeking redress at the workplaces are conducted in the country. Every information that is being provided on the complaint form, there is a reason for it. There is a scientific reason for it. So when we gather all these informations, it gives us a feedback on how some employers and their employees go through on issues of termination.
Do you have strong feedback mechanisms? Because at the end, it's not only after you've resolved, but even in the course of the resolve, the course of hearing the case, conditions that goes on at the institutions, at the workplace, among other things, are all things that you also look out for.
Exactly, because you see, the Labor Act even provides that there must be communication channels. There must be open communication channels. It forms the duties of the employer. There must be an open communication channel between the employer and the worker. You see, so in instances where the employer does not give the opportunity of redress at the workplace, it's of a concern. It is of a concern because the Labor Act provides that conditions should be there. And so it helps us, it gives us feedback on how things are being done in many of our enterprises or at the working level. Yes.
Interesting. But have you been also being met with some of the unfair termination conditions or cases, and in the ones that you've been able to see or the commission has seen or sat on in the past? What are some of the likely outcomes that has come in? Is that on the willingness on the party, any of the party who is at fault, to do what is needed, do what is expected, or there have been points where they do not even agree to the guidance of the commission and went extreme further to the courts or any other thing?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so like I always mention, you see, the commission's ruling are not final in itself. They are not final in itself. It can be final when parties agree
to it.
to it. But then if one party feels aggrieved and it's not okay with the ruling or a directive or an order that the commission has given, the fellow can always go to court, any appellate court. So you can go, because the commission has the powers of a high court, you can go to an appeals court or even as far as the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
You see, and when the that is on the side of the victor, the one who loses the case, you can go to any of the appellate courts. But if the
victim or the losing
victim or the losing party also refuses to go through the process, then the the commission can also go to court for enforcement of the decision, so that if there has been a case between the employer and the employee, and then there has been a ruling that, say, the employer is supposed to pay a certain amount of money to the worker, and he fails to do that, the commission can go to court. That one, when we go to court, it is only for enforcement of our decision. The matter is not heard or taking new decision taking or anything. No. Because the commission, when it sits to hear on cases, it has the power of a high court. And so when it is going to court, but you see, the commission is an inferior tribunal or an inferior court. You see, so that, yes, so that is how come we are unable to prosecute or to act on our own decisions. But we rather go to court for the enforcement, to get the court to enforce our decisions for us. Because commission, you won't come, because it's an ADR process that we use in dispute resolution. You won't come to commission and see a policeman standing behind any commissioner. It is a very fair and flexible condition. Yes, we use both the ADR and the legal processes in adjudicating on cases. So if it so happened that the other party has refused to comply, we go to court for enforcement. And if we go to court, the court enforces the decision, and still we are not getting compliance, then the court can even garnish the property of the organization, pay off, and then settle the worker. Yes. So these are some of the steps that are there to address such concerns when it comes. Yeah.
I just wanted to find out that, you know, that there's always a spirit, and then the spirit leads to the latter of every constitutional codification. From where our laws has moved from, so far as labor is concerned, into the enforcement of the Labor Act, among other things, do we say that from 2003 to date, organizations, firm, employers, employees themselves, and the worker unions or the employers associations have learned the proper ways of terminations and understood that these are the grounds that will warrant you to terminate the employment contract conditions, either from the employer to the employee or from the employee to the employer? Has there been that understanding? What period?
Well, from where I sit, I would say it's a big problem. It's a big problem. The commission, since its establishment, 20 years in this year, 20 years now, I can say on authority that about 85% of cases that comes to the commission on daily basis are on issues of termination. And when we go into the matter, it is also established that it is an unfair termination. So we realize that we still have a long way to go as a country. There are a lot of ills and wrongs that are going on at the workplace. Where I get confused at times is that in many of these organizations, there are unions. And union leaders are expected to at least have a fair idea about the working conditions or the provisions that are there in the labor law. Likewise, the employers. Many employers get up and they just terminate at will. And you realize that this is many a times very unfair. They don't go through their own internal structures that they have even laid down, so that there will be a hearing, there will be a discipline, there will be a committee hearings, and so on and so forth. Many of these structures that are there are not followed. The employer gets up at will and terminates at will. And it is something that we all need a lot of education and sensitization on. And so I advocate strongly that the commission, the NLC, needs to be supported to perform its role. You see, many a times, the other members of the tripartite, and I've said this on many platforms, that the other members of the tripartite are not helping.
Well, it's only government who
It's only government. Many a times, it's only government that is committed in supporting the work of the commission. You see, and they are the very people who will come back and then they will say that the commission is in bed with government, which is even false.
That is, you are talking
in
about
the first place.
Worker unions.
Yes, organized labor and then the employers association. You see, they are the very people who will come back and complain. But if all these parties are doing their part, work will thrive. Work will thrive. See, example is this issue of advocacy that we are talking about. People need to know what the provisions of the Labor Act are like. And they are spelled out in very simple language and terms.
Very relatable.
Exactly. So anybody picking the act can read and understand what is there. But you may not understand whether they gloss over it or they deliberately choose not to apply what the provisions that are there are like. And so they terminate at will. And that is how come we have a lot of cases at the commission that comes on issues of unfair termination. I can tell you that the commission, the head office alone, records not less than 40 cases in a week.
Wow.
Not less than 40 cases.
Wow.
So the commission is really doing a human job.
You are.
If it had not been by the intervention of the commission, there would have been a lot of labor unrest in the country. There would have been a lot of labor unrest.
I'm told that the regions you made mention of, they are also inundated with works too as well. So
Exactly.
people move so that you avoid the pressure all coming to Accra. They are all doing some of this work you are doing at the various regions.
Exactly. Their mandate is also to go into the resolution of labor disputes. They are mandated to see to the resolution of labor disputes as and when it comes. You see. And so at the regional levels like this, we have facilitation processes going on that is done by the Industrial Relations Department. We also have the regional committees of the commission. And in fact, just 2 weeks ago that the regional committees of the commission were inaugurated. And so they are there to hear the cases. And they are the tripartite, made up of organized labor, employers, and then government. They are representatives each. They sit to hear the matter and they give an adjudication on them. And so this has helped in curbing a lot of some of these concerns. There has been instances that people got terminated and through the hearing processes, it was reversed. Because if the commission goes into it and it is established that the processes that were used were not the best, they are directed to reinstate. But there are also instances that employees are made to go back to the workplace and they are not ready to go. They are not ready to go.
They've gone through some ordeal.
Exactly.
They feel that maybe they will not get conducive environment to operate.
Exactly. They will go back and they will inherit a toxic environment. How can they work? It becomes difficult. So these are some of the things that are there. When the commission goes into it, and there is a need to bring back, they will let it happen.
If from this interview someone is listening and the person feels like, look, I think that I've not been dealt with well on my termination. You made mention of coming to the commission. Is it at will? Can we just pick up numbers on your website and call? Do we have to move to your offices, Accra, and any other region the person is watching from? Do you have to make an appearance, or we can just make phone calls or send emails where these things can begin from?
Well, because of the issues that are always in relation, we suggest that parties or complainants come to the commission to actually lodge the case with us, because the processes are such that we will have to even vet your complaint, and then we get to, if there is a need,
there's a labor issue.
yes, and if we make necessary corrections. For our complaint forms, you can always have it on our website. You print it out, then you come to the commission, you fill it, attach your termination letter, dismissal, or appointment letter, or whichever document that can help in the process. You attach it. Then you type your complaint and add up. You bring them to the commission, we vet it, go through it to see that everything is okay before the processes even starts. You see. So anywhere in the country where our services are provided, you can walk into it and then you lodge a case with us. In the case of Ashanti region, you can go to Ahojo. We are opposite the Oasis of Love Church. You can go there, our regional office, the staffs are there, Mr. Gololana and team are there. They will listen to you and then walk you through the process. When you go to Western region, we are at Anaji.
Tardy.
Yes, Tardy. We are at Anaji. You go to see Mr. Edi and Co. They are there. They also walk you through the process, hear the case, and then adjudicate on it. In the Bono Ahafo, or in the Bono region now, we have an office in Sunyani. We are in the same building with the YEA.
Okay.
Yes, on the airport stretch. But then the office is not fully functional. It's our baby office. We established recently, and we are here to have the full complement of the staff. Yes. So maybe if you even tender in an application for a hearing, it may be referred to the nearest office, which is in the Ashanti region.
Okay.
Yes. And then in the Greater Accra, our regional office is in Tema, the industrial enclave. So in Tema, you can go to Community 10, the Mayflower House. You can go and then you meet Comfort, Bentum, and the team. They will also attend to your complaint and help in a resolution. And we have the head office. See, the head office is always inundated with concerns. So you come to our head office also at Ridge, adjacent the Ridge Hospital. You come with your complaint, we will receive it and go through it, and then we can adjudicate on the matter.
So if I'm clear in my mind, you've made mention of specific regions.
Yeah.
Meaning that you're not covered in all 16 regions.
No.
But the head office is able to operate to enter all these catchment areas.
Exactly. There are instances that we have cases coming from as far as Boku.
Go to Boku.
Yes, Boku.
Go to Boku.
Yes, cases come from Boku. People come from Bogatanga. People come from Tamale, Wa, in the Volta region, Sugakope, Akachi, and those places. They bring their cases to the commission. You see, we are trying so hard to get establishments in all the other parts of the country. At least, we should be able to hit all the 16 regions across the country. You see, we need material resources and human resources as well. We need all these things to make us more effective and more functional. For the work, we are doing a lot of work with a little human capacity and staff strength that we have. But we feel that if we are able to have a financial clearance for Ministry of Finance, financial and technical clearance for Ministry of Finance, we can be able to recruit more workers, train them, and then we deploy them into the regions to operate, so that people will not necessarily have to travel from far to come because of the inconveniences and other things that it comes.
I'm sure as the presidency is going to be a 24-hour economy, maybe a part of it.
Well,
maybe a part of it.
well,
We pray for you.
Well, you see, we as a public servant, you serve at the pleasure of your master.
Yes.
So anything that the employer will say we do, we'll gladly do.
So we pray for you. We pray for you that it will be established that way. But ultimately,
yes,
let me really appreciate your time and efforts, and then the advocacy the commissioner has done in the month of May.
Yeah,
today happens to be the very last Thursday in this month. So let me give you kudos. This is where I'll say that your final words, but it's not your final words. What are your closing statements as far as you wrap up with us this month on the labor month?
Thank you very much, Pepsival and the Adwa TV crew. In fact, we have been able to reach out to millions of people across the length and breadth of the country by your help and other mediums within which we have been able to reach out on these conversations with. And with the little efforts that we are putting in place, we know that we are gradually changing minds. People's minds are coming back on the issues of their employment and their conditions at the workplace. There are instances that we get feedbacks from programs that we come to carry out. People call in from places and they tell us what their issues are and how come they have been able to hear and what they feel that it needs to be done for them and so on. The inquiries are being made day in and out. And all these are by the help of the media, which Adwa TV has been a very strong force behind all these that we have done in the past times. And we would want to thank you for the good support in championing this cause. We really appreciate.
You are grateful too. And then we would continue to foster this relationship between ourselves as a media entity and that of entities like yourself, National Labour Commission. And then we commend you for the good work you are doing with advocacy too. But that is why we are here, that will become an information medium where people will use us to get to those that they want to get to. So kudos to you, kudos to the team. And then definitely I'll see you before the year ends.
That's it.
Yes, because I know we'll have other conversations that will pop up in the course of the year.
Exactly.
But sure, next year too, the spirit continues like that. So big ups to you, and then I'm very grateful. And I see you when I see you, my very good friend.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you so much.
Before we finally dismiss Tottenham, let's do small politics. Justice Shrimshai, who is the Deputy Attorney General, has put some comment on his social media wall. Suspect Bernard Ekibuesiaku, aka Chama You Can't, is under investigation for various criminal offenses, including fraud, causing financial loss to the state and money laundering. The criminal investigation is running concurrently with assets recovery processes to prevent further dissemination of what law enforcement agencies strongly suspect to be proceeds of crime. The suspect is under a second strand of investigation, which is part of the suspect is also under a second strand of investigation, which is part of a larger international organized crime scheme. Hey, Chaba to me. The Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO, is assiduously working with international law enforcement partners on this second strand of criminal investigations. The kind of say Chairman Utubi is going through serious investigation which has to do with fraud, causing financial loss to the state, money laundering, and then a grand organized crime scheme of an international standard. So IOCO is working with the international partners to crack the matter, which means that those that are sitting on the floor, Munyan sorry, you'll be sitting there till the kingdom come, till Yoko is done with their work. So if I'm to advise you, get up from the floor. You go. When the Yoko is done with their thing, then you come back. Because for all you know, maybe they might mention your name. If they mention your name, the numbers are going to increase. You have to come from their constituencies to come. Imagine they mention my friends there. I'm not going to mention his constituency. You have to come all the way to this place. So please, you go home. Tomorrow morning, come and continue. Because right now, when the matter has reached there, if you don't take a BNI, FBI will come inside. After FBI, the other intelligence, the British intelligence, everybody will come inside. So please, you can go home for your own safety. But a very big thanks goes to the production team. I see my producer, Salasi. Lester has been very, very, very wonderful as programs and production manager. And then listening to some of these conversations. Big ups to you, and I see you and you're black. Big ups to you. I see Kevin behind the screen, and then big ups to manager. And then Sasu sound guy. Big ups to all the technical team that is out there too as well. Big ups to you. And then to me, I'm very grateful. See you when I see you.
Thank you so much.
And then enjoy the rest of your days in the month of May. Yes.
That's the labor month.
Yes.
It's gradually folding up in the year.
Exactly. So
yes.
I'll see when I see you, and then do enjoy your weekend too as well.
Do enjoy same.
Yes. God bless our homeland Ghana and make our nation great and strong. Don't do what I wouldn't do. I don't drink too. But it's a Thursday evening. Let's bubble up for tomorrow. The weekend's coming. Friday.
Ele